Good morning. It is 9 a.m. It is 9 a.m. Check your clocks. You should have turned them back. 9 a.m. on a Sunday here. And this is Lisa's Changing Perceptions with Lisa Efflandt. Lisa, good morning.
Good morning, Pete. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. I hope that you all did remember to change your clocks. It's actually funny because that reminded me, because this morning I was in doing my hair and makeup and I thought, oh, I bet I have time for an extra cup of coffee. I'll go take a look. And I went out to look at the stove clock and it said 9 o'clock and I almost had a flipping heart attack. But I knew the other half had been up and he probably changed it because he's kind of that way about fixing stuff. And I was like, oh my God. So I went and I looked at my phone and my phone said 8 and I rebooted my phone thinking maybe it hadn't picked it up or something and it still said 8. So I text my mom. I'm like, it's 8 a.m., right? And she said, yes. And I was like, okay, then he probably did it last night being proactive and forgot at 5 o'clock this morning as he was wandering and half asleep and said it again. So I almost had a heart attack. I was thinking, Pete's going to kill me. It's 9 a.m. I'm supposed to be there.
No, so, you still had an hour.
So today's the time change, but it kind of goes along with the challenges of this week. It seems that many people have had. So I'm going to bring up that I know I said I was going to talk about a very controversial and difficult story this week. I have been guided not to do that this week. Not that I won't do it at some point, but that I'm not doing it this week, multitude of guidance. And that instead what was needed this week was a little bit more of an upbeat, positive change of perspectives. And change in perception, I guess the way we'll put that. So that's what we're going to do today. And Pete and I are going to have a conversation as usual. And for the record, Pete, I get many comments about people like the fact that you're in conversation with me on here. So always feel free to chip in.
All right.
Yeah, people like you because they're like, who's he? We don't see him. Like, no, you won't.
No, it's not my show. I just produce. But Lisa lets me talk now and then. So, yeah, that's all right.
Anyway, for those of you that are new, welcome. Apparently, we had several news last week. Yay. Thank you. Welcome. I am Lisa. I am a self-empowerment coach and a hypnotherapist. And on this show, we talk about just about anything and everything. Nothing's held back, and it's always going to be the truth. And occasionally we have guests. So I welcome all the new people. Check in every week to see what's there. You can reach me at lisaschangingperceptions.com, lisaschangingperceptions@gmail.com. Lisa's Changing Perceptions on Facebook. You can reach me at 216thenet.com or you can call or text 262-573-7055. And I am open to discussing whatever it is. My specialties are anxiety and PTSD and trauma. But that does not mean that that's all I work with. And I'm actually I have many certifications and I'm actually in the middle of getting a new certification in neuro-linguistic programming. I'm learning new things every day with that. And I actually find it quite fascinating.
It is cool, isn't it?
It is. It's quite fascinating. And I'm getting a double certification. And it's techniques I'm already starting to use. And it's very fascinating. So I look forward to it. And I also occasionally do teen groups. So there's lots going on. If you're looking for somewhere for you or for your teen, feel free to get a hold of me. And if I don't have if it's outside my spectrum, I guess, so to speak, I know many people and I can get you to somebody that can help you if I'm not able to. So I guess we'll leave it at that. So it has been a trying week. And I thought it was just for me because I was kind of feeling sorry for myself, but apparently it is not. As I talk to people, it has not just been me. So we're going to add a little bit of the woo. So for the new people that don't know, the woo is also part of me. I am an intuitive medium and I do receive and follow guidance as well. So that can become a part of the show on occasion. So for those new listeners, because like I said, we had a lot of them last week. I was very, very excited. For those new listeners, their woo pops in every now and then. So I was going to tell the story. And like I said, I was told that, no, I need to be a little more upbeat and positive. So I'm going to do an intermingling of it. And this week's challenges for myself and for the other people that I've talked to seem to be self-reflective triggers, but not in the releasing trauma kind of way, almost in a way of I've been challenged to practice what I preach. I guess that's kind of the way to put it. And
Okay.
sometimes, just so everybody knows, life will do that as well. Sometimes the universe or spirit, or how I feel about it, whomever it is you believe, will put things in front of you, and it'll be like a repeated kind of mess. And in the end, when you kind of clear the fog, or you chill out because you tend to get angry, it's kind of challenging who you say you are. So I spend a lot of time on the radio, and I spend a lot of time in my office, and people who know me well know I spend a lot of time talking about all of these types of things. And this whole week has been a challenge of, really? Is that who you are? Or do you just speak it? And I was forced to kind of make some of those decisions and really face myself that way. And I'm going to talk about those, but that just so that everybody knows, sometimes life will do that to you. And it's not to punish you. I hate it when people think they're being punished by the universe. The universe is not punished, in my opinion.
No.
But that challenge forced me to go, okay, they're putting this in front of you. Are you who you say you are? And a lot of people I've talked to have been put there. So I guess I'm going to talk about that. I can't give the details for privacy reasons. But I had 2 situations placed in front of me that put me in a place of making a decision to do something about these things because it was the right thing to do. And for the people for the other people, it was the right thing to do for the other people. And these people were presented to me in a fashion that they truly needed me, and they actually trusted me. And there are situations where I would be one of the few people that they actually trusted. And in doing that, I risk my full-time job. And I had to sit and contemplate that because, okay, that's a balancing act. And then I came home and I was kind of like, ooh, how do I say I'm going to do this and risk my job? Because of the other half who's, kind of but at least it's a paycheck kind of person kind of thing, because
Sure.
I do other work I'm building my practice. I mean, I don't hide that. And surprisingly, they looked at me and said a pre-word, them, you be who you are. You couldn't live with yourself another way. And I went, thank you. Like just that support of, that's where I was heading was, well, do the right thing. Because I really do live my life with, at the end of the day, I meet my maker and I answer for me.
Right.
I don't answer for Pete. I don't answer for a boss. I don't answer, you know what I mean? I don't answer for my kids. I don't answer for a husband. I don't answer for any of those things. At the end of the day, my life and who I am is my life, and who I was, I guess, would be at that point. And I face my maker, and the maker, I don't believe is going to accept me saying, but Pete made me, that Pete made me do it, or you're my example because you're sitting here. Just for record, Pete doesn't make me do anything.
As if I even had any inclination that I could. No.
I know my husband's joke used to, when people would say, how do you get her to do anything? He'd say, tell her that she can't. That's how I get her to do something. But anyway, these challenges were put in front, and then I had a friend who had a problem, and they called me upset, and they were very upset. And obviously it's your friend, so you're going to help. And, I would help anybody who asked me if they came to me in that kind of, and I gave them a piece of advice, even though I kind of was only 50-50 on my agreement with it. Cause I'm still human.
No.
And they ended up taking that advice and moving forward with it. And it worked out fabulously for them. Like 10 times better than I would have ever guessed, or they would have ever guessed. And this is when it gets hard to talk to people about, like when you're an intuitive and you work with helping people and you're human and your life is already, like kind of muddling through in the moment kind of thing. And it wasn't that I wasn't excited that it happened for them. Of course I was, but I was like, damn it. Another thing I said to do, and it worked. And you get to the point you're like, why am I stuck in the quicksand? And, but watering the flowers around.
Mhm.
And I get to watch the flowers grow while I'm fighting my way out of the quicksand. And I was kind of in this mental mess place. And I shut down. I basically just shut down. I didn't really, it wasn't a depression. I just shut down and went, okay, overwhelmed. How do you breathe? What do you do? How do you get out of this? And I wasn't feeling well, but I knew part of not feeling well was just feeling overwhelmed, and my energy had completely been drained because the week was just like challenge after challenge. Because although that situation doesn't seem like a big deal, it was a mental, emotional trigger and challenge for me because I'm in a situation of multiple choices in my life and roads to choose, and I feel stuck on which way to go. And I'm trying to get those answers on which way to go for myself. So when giving somebody else an answer that then goes flourishing, like you're like, all right.
Well, see, but I think that's because objectively, you can look at a situation objectively that is not necessarily going to impact you personally,
Right.
one way or the other. So there are no particular blinders there. So you get the luxury, as it were, of looking at what someone else is going through and going, oh, okay, you did this, this, and this. Maybe if you tried that, you might get a different result.
And it's what I do. I mean, in truth, it's what I do.
It's what you do. And that's extremely difficult, from what I've found in my own life, to do personally. Because when I start thinking about the steps I'd like to take or things I want to do, my brain races about 10 miles ahead of me and says all of the, well, what if?
Right. That's our unconscious mind. That's right.
If then what if? And you're going, oh, dang, son of a buck. Let's back that truck up a little bit. And this route seems a little safer, although probably not going to get what I want over here.
Correct.
And to that end, I've even recently, actually, you asked me earlier what's new in my life. And I'll shut up because this ain't my show. But I haven't really thought, because I'm thinking, what did we do new? Nothing really. But I did actually apply for a job because I do things outside the station. I applied for a job of a sort that I've never, ever had.
Ooh, outside the box.
Completely outside the box. And I did it because I think it would actually be kind of a lot of fun. So I'll have a second. I've already been told I got a second interview next week. We'll see what happens.
Ooh, cheers. So, good luck for that one.
I don't know. We'll see.
Stepping outside our box is sometimes the way to go. Like I said, I've said a million times, if 10 years ago, even 8 years ago, you'd have told me, Lisa, you're going to, be an empowerment coach and a hypnotherapist, and you're going to work with teens, and you're going to do the, I would have said, shut up. I'm so not. That's ridiculous. Have you not met me? I absolutely would have had no part of that. And then life happened, and step by step, it kind of rolled me there. And the truth is I love it. And then interestingly enough, that is what pulled me out of it this week. And like I said, it wasn't a depression. I just shut down. I didn't want to answer my phone. I didn't want to talk to anybody. But I'm very cautious of when my energy sucks, not going around people and, spreading it out there. I have a girlfriend who's really sensitive, and she called me. And I said, I'm happy to talk to you. I love you and I miss you, but I'm telling you my energy sucks. So whether you continue this conversation or not is totally up to you. And she was like, ooh, I think I'll be okay. What's going on? But I try to give out that warning to people, especially people I know that are oversensitive,
right,
and empaths, because it's not fair, especially with me being aware of it. When people aren't aware, that's one thing. But when I'm very aware of it and then I go out and I spread the ick, that's not nice. So I'm very conscious of it. But I kind of just shut down and got quiet. And what's funny was my clients are part of what pulled me out of it. I had a couple clients this week, and one of them, I was trying to figure out what's my purpose in this. Why do I keep going to school? Why do I keep, more certifications, and just feeling, like I said, like I'm stuck, and it's not like I'm doing all this work and it's not getting me anywhere. Not that there isn't a self-satisfaction to it. So everybody save that part of it. There totally is, but that's not the point. We still have to live. We're still human. Right. And so there's still things, that we want to get out of things. And anyway, so I was talking to a client, and they struggle with a lot of anger issues. And, at the end of the session, we did what's called a swish technique, which I'll explain on the show at some point, but it's called a swish technique, and it was very effective. And I said, well, so what's the price of happiness for you? Like, how do you get rid of the anger? What's the price of happiness for you? And she looked at me and said, I don't know. I think it's $100 a week because I feel real good right now. And I busted up. That's awesome. That is so funny. But in a weird way, I needed to hear that. It had nothing to do with money. It had to do with, Lisa, what you're doing matters. What you're doing makes a difference. And of everything that happened that week, that just made you laugh and smile. And it gives you kind of a rush. I don't even want to say a rush because then people think it's an ego thing. It's not. It's an energy thing. It's an energy raise. When you know you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, there's a different feel to it. It's not work. Time flies quickly. You're just in the zone. Anything outside of that moment isn't there, And then I went through a few more days during the week and, they said on the opposite end of the spectrum, being questioned as to doing the right thing that wasn't for me. But that's where my integrity and my faith was getting questioned. And I knew that challenge was getting put in front of me. And so I did what I do. And I made the hard decision, but it took me thought, to assume that that's instant isn't always. We're always kind of stepping back. We're still human. We have to be in this thing. And so I had another client to see later on in the week, and I was driving in and having my little tissy to the universe and yelling at the peeps up there because that's what I do. And it's so funny because now Pete's used to it, but people look at me and I say that, oh, do you think they don't know? Here's the truth. For everybody who thinks that you can't tell spirit, God, whatever, the truth about when you've had enough, they know how you feel. And to me, it's letting it go. It's releasing it because it's kind of my way of saying, I can't carry this anymore. Here.
Yeah.
Take it. Here. Take it. I've had it with you. And one of the things that has been my struggle, and we've talked about this before, is my book. Yeah. I have been writing this book off and on. I have torn it up. I have rewritten it. I have for years. And I admit completely that I'm as afraid of success as I am of failure with it. And I get to this point and then I stop and I go, I'm going to redo it a different way. And that's my excuse now for not having it done, is that I decided it needed to go a different way. And I figured out that is truly just an excuse. And I go walking into my office and there's other people in the office. And another woman there had this client. She said, I'm so glad you're here. I wanted to introduce you. And she introduces me to this woman. And this woman and I start a conversation, and she's a widow and an author, and I'm just looking at her. But cute. That's funny. And my friend Kim, who works at the office, she says, Lisa's been writing a book for a little while, and I'm like, a lot of while. And the woman looked at me and she goes, why isn't it done? Just do it. And I admit it, I'm always very open. Like I said, I truly like this all the time. I said, because I'm as afraid of success as I am of failure. She goes, I totally get it. And I said, do you? And she goes, I totally do. Absolutely, I get it. She goes, so I got a question for you. And she totally turned the tables on me because this is something I would totally do to a client. She turned the table on me and I said, what? And she goes, what if it sucks? I said, well, I wouldn't feel good about that. She said, would you live? And I just looked at her like, I said, I am the hypnotherapist here, sister. I am.
That's awesome.
Yes. And it was so funny. And it kind of like made my light bulb go on and go, ooh, look at that. Yes, you were being arrogant and thinking that you were staying on your soapbox and practicing what you preach by making your other decision. But you took the stuff you didn't want to look at and went, we'll just shush that over there. We'll pretend it's not there. So the universe, or like I said, whatever you want to call it, to me, put that in front of me and went, so we're going to keep ignoring this topic? This is what we're going to do? Yeah. And this woman who totally has my energy and my personality and literally was put as a challenge in front of me.
Yeah.
And she called me on my own bluff because that is totally what I would do to a client.
Hmm.
I would absolutely do that to a client. And I thought, ooh.
Yeah.
So to all my clients, when I do that and it pisses you off, I'm so sorry.
You know what happened? You know what happened is you got Lisa'd.
Yes.
So, and that's now going to be a thing.
To get Lisa'd? All right.
Yeah.
In truth, now that I look back on it, I like it because when I looked at her, I started laughing. And then I really did. I said, listen, I'm the hypnotherapist here, sister. Yeah. You just keep it to yourself. Because it is, what I realize is that's a safe place to be on that side of the desk. Because I truly care. I mean, I admit I'm not ashamed to say I'm very good at what I do. And I truly care. And I know what I'm doing. And I do educate myself. All those things matter. But I thought, ooh, that's a very safe place to be when it's somebody else.
Exactly. Because it's not you. Right. So it's a super safe place to be. And
I kind of put myself in little positions where I go, oh, no, yeah, you're practicing what you preach. And, you know, but this book thing is a huge thing to me. And I keep swishing it away and swishing. And it was almost like the universe going, it's time to stop doing that now. And now we're going to put you in a situation where you're forced to see it. And I was like, oh, and I did laugh. I mean, I do have a sense of humor usually when that kind of stuff comes because I see the coincidence. I don't believe in coincidence, so that's part of my thing. But I see the coincidence with it, and I did look up in front of her and went, "That's really funny." Like, so yeah, that's a good one. You got Lisa'd. I guess that'll be the way we will put it from now on.
Yeah, there you go.
But it's the purpose. But in all of that, then it kind of rolled. And the reason for all of this conversation today is, and I'm not even going to get into politics, but the point is that there is a big event happening on Tuesday, and the turmoil, the anger, the hatred that I see, I don't even know how to put words into it. I don't care which side you're on. I don't care. Your view is your view. I guess the question is that everybody could ask themselves is, have I been caught up in the energy of all that's going on around me? And am I really being who I want to be?
Yeah.
Am I really being somebody I'm proud of? Are the things that I'm saying and the actions that I'm taking because I got caught up in the energy of what's going on? Or are they really things that I would look at in 6 months or a year and be proud of? I mean, I've heard people and read things of people who are so-called enlightened, you know, not that it makes somebody better or worse, but there's a certain mentality that's supposed to come with that. Referring to people as too stupid and uneducated to know better, and just some very vile and horrible things coming out of their mouth. And I'm not even judging that, but my thing is that I know those people, and that's not truly who they are. Like, to me, I've known them for years and years and years. So it's not like, well, I met them once and they seem nice. And you can see they're caught up in the energy of the discord and the energy of what's going on. And it's not really who they are. So my other friend in South Carolina, who I'm going to have on the show one day, she's just going to have to be remote. She's a medium as well. I've talked about her before. She did my first reading and helped with my husband and what have you. But I was talking to her, and it's almost like when I was telling her about what happened this week, she said, I think that's what's happening in the consciousness. And meaning that everybody's kind of being faced with that question right now. So as we're getting caught up in this energy and as everything around us is in this craziness, I think it's an opportunity for all of us to step back and look at ourselves and say, are we who we are, or did we get caught up in the energy? And the truth is if you got caught up in the energy, don't beat yourself up. It happens.
Yeah.
But then be aware and stop. You know, stop the parts of it that aren't you.
And Lori Parrish says, love that perspective, Lisa. Great questions to be asking ourselves.
Thank you. And they're genuine, and we should ask ourselves questions. We tend to be in a society that has become experts at deflection. And they are questions that we should ask ourselves. And not that everybody has to live like me, but I truly do live in the belief of, at the end of the day, there's only one person two people I answer to, myself and my maker. And that's just really how I see life.
And Donna Baker Leckman.
That's my mom.
Okay. Says,
Mommy.
Yeah. She says, question, could it be their true personalities coming out? And so to me, that's a valid question.
I agree. And it could be, but that's for them to ask themselves. And they're the ones who have to answer to their maker. And for me, that's really something that I live by. And it is something that brings me peace to certain situations where I would normally probably attack and battle back, is to realize that at some point, the person who is saying that to me or trying to trigger me or whatever it is that's causing me that discord is going to have to answer for that. And I don't mean it in a punishment way, but I mean at some point our lives are reflected back to us. Mm-hmm. And the only thing I'm responsible for is how I choose to react to it. And if I choose to react to it in an incredibly ugly way, that's also going to reflect back to me later. Or I have to answer for that later on. So yes, sometimes it can be their true self coming out. I tend to feel like when the world or there's this much chaos and discord and the energy is so great and so strong that many people are really just getting caught up in it. And it might not be their actual personalities coming out, but it may be triggering lots of old stuff getting stirred up, kind of like stirring the crap pot. Stuff starting to come to the surface. So if you've had financial trouble or you've had health problems, whatever it is, the topics that are coming up in the energy of all of this being in such conflict may be triggering things that have been sitting there for a while. So when you get too wrapped up in all of that, you're going to respond, you're going to react, you're going to do this. Because my belief is at the end of the day, I don't care who's standing behind the podium next year. It can't change who I am, who I'm responsible for. And in truth, in the big picture, if we were all responsible for ourselves and our actions and our integrities and so on and so forth, and if we were all responsible for our own lives and we self-reflected enough, it wouldn't matter.
It wouldn't. Really, would it?
No.
At all.
Because if we've had the wheelhouse story, if we all kind of looked within our own wheelhouse, and when I mean our own wheelhouse, I mean start within your own four walls. What do I need to do with me? Meaning your own four walls, like internal, then your home. Then step outside your doors and look around. What can I make change with? And we build that way. Think about it. If everybody just did that, what would be wrong? What would be wrong? Because in that, you're looking at where you can make change. You're looking at what's in your wheelhouse, what's in your power and potential. When we get to the point that we're able to self-reflect within our own power, our own potential, we've bypassed, I hate the word ego because we can have a whole conversation about that, but we've bypassed that part of us. And when we bypass that part of us, we no longer have the need to change another.
Right.
This conflict, this anger, this fighting, it's almost like bullies on a playground. And I have my own views. I mean, I'm not saying I don't have views in this. I do. But there's a reason most people don't know them. You have to be pretty close to me to know them, because it's not my responsibility to change yours or yours or yours. My responsibility is for myself to keep my mind clear, to filter out my truth, and to respond to that accordingly. My responsibility is not to change how somebody else thinks. And we've talked about this in the Air Force, so I'm also going to put this out there. I have yet to know a human being who has read an ugly Facebook post and went, oh, now I see the light and changed my mind.
Right. Oh, if it had not have been for that meme.
Right. Right. My whole perspective would have been different if that meme hadn't been just so. Yeah. So I guess my point is that that's the energy that's getting rolled up in this. That's the energy that's getting spread. And if you want my honest truth, and I'm not going to get into details of it, I think that both sides are at play with manipulation, and I think that both sides have their own issues. And I realize that there's more than two sides, but that could be a whole different conversation. So we're just going to go with the general energy of it all. And the reason the manipulation on both sides has been so effective is because we have allowed it to be. We have allowed it to be.
Yeah.
We have not filtered what is triggering us because it's a part of something old that it's stirring. What is a real thing? What can I change? What can't I change? We have been armchair quarterbacks. That's what I refer to this theory as, where we can sit on our couch and say how everybody else should have done the job that we can't do. But we didn't get up off of our couch and go out and at least toss the ball.
Oh, and here, okay. Now, here's my mom,
Hi,
who absolutely
Wendy.
loves your show. But I believe you are her absolute favorite show every week
sweet.
on 21.6 The Net. So, but she says, thank you, my dear. I try to, and she's talking to you, I try to be responsible for everyone, and she does. What a relief to know that is simply not my job. And no, it is not.
No.
Not
Wendy,
at all.
you are responsible for you. You are responsible for your choices, your self-reflection, your ownership, your accountability. You are responsible for your mistakes, but that does not mean that you take punishment for mistakes.
No, and that's a big deal. Say that again, please.
You do not take punishment for your mistakes. We take ownership of our mistakes.
One more time for her.
We do not take punishment for our mistakes. We take ownership of our mistakes.
There you go.
And in taking ownership of our mistakes, it is only to reflect on it and see where we could learn and change it so that we do not repeat it again. And for those parents who believe, but I can't, I need to be the greatest example for my children. Horseshit. Your greatest example for your children is how to self-reflect and take accountability and not punish themselves. And the only way your children are going to learn to be the happy people that are balanced and empowered and confident is when they're shown the example of how to pick their butts up when they fall.
There you go.
Be the example. And the only person you are responsible to, well, like I said, we're not going to bring too much religion.
And she says in all caps, thank you.
Yeah. Spirit, I hold myself accountable to spirit because that is my faith and my belief. So I believe I'm responsible for two people, myself and to spirit. I'm accountable to spirit. I'm accountable to me. I'm accountable to spirit. In the end, you're it. Your legacy is not going to be, oh my God, that car she drove.
No.
Oh my God, that weird jewelry she wore. Oh my God, she kept her hair in 1985 for 50 years. All right, that might be a little bit of my legacy, but that's just my family.
Hey, that's all right.
In the end, the part of us that gets left here is what we taught. What we teach. Truthfully, I can sit here and talk until I'm blue in the face, but if I didn't live it, if I didn't believe it, if it wasn't a part of who I really am, nobody would listen because you wouldn't get the vibe, you wouldn't get that energy of it. I'm responsible for being that person. And in the end, what we leave behind is that energy of what we taught and showed, but it's through example.
Through example. And your mom now says, now we got our moms talking to each other. She says, Wendy, I feel like you, ! Taking a step back from what we usually do is a challenge.
Yes, because and I was going to say this when you had mentioned your comment, Pete, but the normal state of the unconscious mind, which is our inner child, so to speak, our unconscious mind is our inner child. We talked about that before. You're arguing with your 8 or 9-year-old child. What will the 8 or 9-year-old child do during a challenge? Will always, always, always choose the path of least resistance. Right or wrong has nothing to do with it.
No.
The big picture has nothing to do with it. Our conscious mind can say we should do this, we should do that, or this pisses me off, or this pisses me off. But the unconscious mind is going to go, what's the path of least resistance? I'm going to take that. And if having a tantrum is the path of least resistance, they're going to have the tantrum.
Yeah.
You know, if look at a toddler that has a fit because they don't want to do what they won't want to do. They have learned the path of least resistance is the biggest fit, because eventually the fit people get sick of, and then I get my way. So they're going to take that path, then they're going to repeat the old way. And for people pleasers, I say that twice for the women who are listening and commenting. The path of least resistance is keep your mouth shut or fix it. Yeah. And I am a people pleaser. I am a people pleaser in recovery. So in other words, I am no longer a people pleaser, but in certain situations, I tend to fall back to that old path, and I have to catch myself and pull myself back out and go, nope, that's not who you are anymore. But people pleasers have done that because it's been the path of least resistance. Now, what happens oftentimes, and be wary of this, is that you get so tired of being a people pleaser that you say, call bullshit. I'm turning in my people pleaser card. You know, my membership is over to this. But we don't recognize that we have buried a lot of hurt by people pleasing. And now that we have turned in our people pleaser card, what is anger? Anger is buried hurt. So it's all going to come up. And then they become angry, bitter, vile, passive aggressive. And all these things are coming out. And so we have to acknowledge, okay, I'm no longer going to be the people pleaser. But when I turn in my people pleaser card, I have to be aware that I'm pulling the cork and stuff's going to start coming up. But you take ownership of that stuff. That stuff isn't for everybody around you to carry. You have to take ownership of it as it kind of flows up. And in that we can learn and we go, but we all mess up with that too. Yeah. You know, I have a, as a matter of fact, it was just said to me this week by my other half. He said, the German girl temper mouth on occasion could shush when she's mad.
Just letting you know. Huh?
Well, they were in a position where they actually came out and said, don't push me right now. Like they had a bad time. You know, they had been a bad day, but don't push me right now. And I was already mad about stuff. And of course, the little girl in me was like, don't tell me what to do. So, of course, I had to make one more comment.
Oh, sure you did.
Yeah.
It was required at that point.
And that was the response that I got. And in the end, as things settled down, they looked at me and said, if sometimes you could just not do that, I tried to say. And the truth is, they did try to say that. But the way they worded it triggered a childhood thing of control and of being told what to do. And I went, oh. So that was a mistake. And in truth, I was right in the big picture, but I was wrong in how I handled and reacted to that situation. It was just a situation where it's just too much energy at one time. And
so in other words, you got Lisa'd again.
Kind of, a little bit, because I had to go, you know what? You could have waited an hour or two to say what you were feeling, and it probably would have turned out a little bit different. But the little girl in me who didn't want to be told what to do and commanded and yelled at or controlled or, you know, whatever word you want to use for it, went, oh, yeah. Let's have a go now.
And see, Lori Parrish says, I have an Italian girl temper in me that comes out sometimes. Yeah, that's my wife. She's very Italian. Well, her family's very Italian. But,
well, and it happens. And I take ownership of that. So, I mean, those things do happen and they trigger us. And it's not that we're not going to make mistakes. And it's not that sometimes things don't trigger us. Things don't fall out of our mouth. They do. But to step back and go, you know what? Yeah, I was right about X, Y, and Z. But A, B, and C probably wasn't the best way to react to it. And I can't change the other person or how they responded. And the truth is, here's the funny part that people don't realize. The other person wasn't going to hear me.
Yeah, no.
They're not going to hear you because in truth, you're reacting with the same kind of energy. So two energies that are on high, red alert, conflicting, nobody gets hurt. It's just conflict. So I had to be accountable for me and step back and go, okay, you know what? It's time. And that's when when it's time for me to just go quiet, because too many things had happened during the week. And I was seeing myself go back to the path of least resistance, which when I was a kid in the household, the path of least resistance was challenge. And I've been confrontational and challenged since I was pretty young. Situations in life have triggered and caused a certain, I've always told everybody, I actually have a very long fuse, but once you light it, the whole neighborhood knows. And don't back me in a corner where I don't feel like I have an outlet to fight, because you will not be aware of the fight that can come out of me. And I'm very aware of those kinds of things about myself. So that's why I decided I'm going to shut down, because I was going back to the path of least resistance because too much had happened during the week. Excuse me. It wasn't just I have allergies. I remind everybody I did not have the Rona.
Right.
Too much had happened. It wasn't just that conflict. And that's kind of my point in this, is that we tend to only look at one situation versus the whole week. The whole week had been kind of challenge in my face, challenge in my face, challenge in my face, challenge in my face. And this was like the icing on the cake, and it was like, okay, I've had enough. And I blew. And even though some people might look at, if they knew all the details of the situation, go, well, I could see why you did that. That's fine, but I'm still accountable for that. And I'm not going to beat myself up over it, but I knew at that moment to say, okay, shut down, go quiet for as long as you need to, which is, just a day and a half or whatever. Just be quiet and be still and allow it to settle. It's kind of like letting the dust settle, and then once the dust settles, you can see a little bit more clearly. But as long as you're kicking and screaming and kicking up the dirt, everything's still in a cloud, right? So you still can't see. Nothing's clear. Yeah. So sometimes you just have to be quiet, let the dust settle. So people pleasing, it's a nightmare. Everybody listening knows, and I don't think there's anybody on the planet that hasn't been a people pleaser at some point that they didn't stop and finally go, you know what, I've had enough. But also we can't do the opposite, where we're so ready to not be used, people pleased, controlled, you know what I mean? All these things again that we become. Yeah. That the person we're trying to deflect. I have a statement. In my classroom, I have a big dry erase board, and I put these positive statements all over it. The kids actually love it. I was surprised at that. I thought they'd think it was nerve-wracking, but they actually enjoy it. And one of the statements is, the moment you take out hurt as your reaction, the moment you take out hurt on another human being as your reaction to triggered trauma, you in that moment make the choice to become the predator and no longer the victim. Okay. Does that make sense? Yeah. So when we're reacting and we're hurting everybody else because something's hurting us or bothering us, we are now the predator. We are now all those people that ever did those things and that's what I mean by kind of who are we? What do we want to be? Where do we want to go? And we all make those mistakes and catch those mistakes. And sometimes they're for learning experiences. Mm-hmm. It's okay to step back and take a break and take a breath and go, okay, we need to let the dust settle because I can't even see clear anymore. We get caught up in the energy of what's going on. So right now with basically the whole country and parts of the world all feeling that stirred up confliction energy. I mean, think about it. There's a whole lot of people kicking up dust right now. Yeah. Everything's a mess and a fog. I think it's very easy for everybody to get caught up into that. And in 6 months or a year, whomever is going to be behind the podium is going to be behind the podium. It will be what it is. But your friends, your family, your partners, your students, your whomever it is, are going to hold the memory of you. They're not even going to remember most of the things going on out there right now, but they're going to remember the example that you gave them or showed them of who you were. Who was I in this? Was I open-minded? And everybody's different. So there's no one way to be, but was I open-minded Did I listen to both sides of people? Did I allow people to have another opinion? Was I anger and rage? Was I too quiet and too soft spoken? Was I, the whole list of, we could go on and on with those. We are responsible for who we are at all times. And I hope that right now with the world and mostly our country, but the world being how it is, that everybody take a breath. I wish everybody could take a down day and let the dust settle and realize in the end, who were you? Who are you? Who do you want to be? Because the horrible, vile things that I'm seeing are, I don't even know how to word it.
Well, you worded it perfectly. They're horrible and vile. And no matter how that comes, vile is not a pleasant thing, not even to people who live in that vileness. It's not a pleasant place to be. And some people, they go there because that's what they know.
Right. It's the path of least resistance.
Yeah,
right.
For them, it becomes the path of least resistance. It's where they actually have developed comfort because they understand the horribleness. They understand the vileness. They understand the villainy. They understand the disgusting.
And they know what to expect.
And they know what to expect. And those are all of those things. It doesn't make it any better. It just makes it what you know and what right. you expect and what you know how to deal with.
So with all of this, I guess now would be a great time. Like I said, I wish everybody could stop for a day and do a down day. And ask yourself, is this who I want to be? Is this who I choose to be? Am I an angry person? You know what? There are stages of life where some people will honestly answer yes. Okay.
And it's okay to get angry.
Absolutely. And when I've asked people, are you an angry person? I've asked people that flat out. Yes. Absolutely. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Is that who you want to be in the long run? Are you happy being an angry person? And on occasion, some people will still say, yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Then that's where you're at right now. Like that's where you're, and other people will say, no, I hate being angry. And a very wise client of mine this week said something very amazing. And I said, repeat that. I said, what do you really want out of life? And they said, to be happy. And I said, oh. And she said, well, I can't be happy if I'm angry all the time. You can't be happy and angry at the same time. So repeat that. Repeat that. Repeat that. Repeat that. Repeat it out loud. And I had them continually repeat it. And that's actually a fact. So you can't get caught up in this turmoil and be bitter and angry all the time and then say my life isn't happy and I'm not happy, because your mind cannot be happy and angry at the same time. So it's a choice. Sometimes it might be a daily choice, and that's okay too, if that's where you're at. Yeah. But here's the truth. If you're choosing to be angry and saying, I am an angry person, I am content being an angry person right now. Okay. Cool. That's where you're at right now. Stop expecting the people around you to accept it. Meaning I can accept it. I know people who are happy, angry right now. And okay, that's where you're at right now. I have no judgment about it. I'm not angry about it. But that doesn't mean I have to live within it.
Absolutely
not.
So
the people can fade away around you when you choose to be this way. But the ownership is the choice. And what I see is a lot of people going, well, this person did that, and this person did that, and this person did that. And how were you behaving? What role did you play in that? Because when multiple people fall apart around us, and we're the only center factor, we have to stop and say, what are we doing that's different? And I don't say this with judgment either, because I will tell you, before my husband died, and people who know me well will tell you, I was a lock horns with you person. If you want to challenge me, there was no me stepping back and trying to see it from your perspective. There was bring it. Let's go.
I can understand that. I can relate to that. That used to be me as well. And I still, confrontation doesn't bother me a bit.
Me either. No.
I know people I know people who will avoid confrontation at all costs. And I know you've talked a lot about being a people pleaser. and I tried to actually really, while you were talking about this, think, have I ever been a real people pleaser? And the only time, and this may sound, I don't like the way this sounds, I'm going to say it. The only time I have been a people pleaser is when I wanted a certain end result that I knew I would get by pleasing those people.
So that
it was a selfish.
You were people pleasing for manipulation.
For manipulation.
Right.
Absolutely. And that sounds kind of shitty, but I very openly,
okay, then that's a perfect example. That sounds shitty to you
because
that's not who you genuinely are. You went against your grain. That's why it sounds bad to you. That is a normal thing we have all done at different times in life.
Yeah.
So all those people, so-and-so's a manipulator. All of us are at some point in life. All of us at certain points have said, well, I know if I do this, I'm going to get this. Right.
And that's
right.
When I people please, I can genuinely say that's been the case. It's not a pleasant thing.
But it's also not your daily agenda.
No.
And that's why it makes you uncomfortable. See, that's the difference. And that's kind of where we figure out who we are, because it makes you uncomfortable. There's many people who they wouldn't have a hard time saying that at all. And I have a teenager that I know that is a masterful manipulator. And I've confronted that because you know me, I got to figure out like what's in somebody's head to do it. And the response was, but it works.
Well, yeah. And it's easy to spot a manipulator. For me, it is, because I know what goes into that. To me, that's, and again, and perhaps because it's not my daily agenda, manipulation is a tool. It's
right. Well, and that's exactly how they looked at it, and they saw nothing wrong with it. So I knew that their manipulation was going to cause them harm in the long run. It was going to cause them damage to their life. But I was never going to change them to believe that. So there's no point in me doing it. So we're just going to kind of work with it because they had not learned at that point that it didn't work.
Yeah.
It didn't, or excuse me, that it was bad. So they had learned only that it worked. And do you feel good about yourself doing it? Not always. Okay. Do you want to change it? No. And it was this expression even of, what are you, stupid? Why would I change it? Like, you're an idiot. Like, why would I change this? It's working.
Yeah. And Wendy, my mom, says, confrontation terrifies me. It does her. She's one person I know who absolutely abhors confrontation.
Did she grow up around a lot of confrontation?
Oh, Lord, yeah.
Yeah, that's
and
why.
In fact, my grandfather, her dad, and it's funny you talk about the whole happiness thing. When I was very little, I remember him looking at me and saying, well, in his Irish English accent, well, Peter, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I remember being very serious and thinking for a moment, this is, I somehow, it wasn't that I mindfully thought I was like 6 or 7. It wasn't I mindfully thought this is an important question. It was, but I do remember thinking, this matters. This matters. And I looked at him and I remember looking up and I said, happy. I want to be happy when I grow up. That was my answer.
Good for you.
And he said, that's the wrong answer. And he said, that's not right. That's the wrong answer. And I distinctly remember, I didn't say it back to him, but I distinctly remember thinking, no, I'm pretty much sure that's the right answer, but whatever. And went on playing. And so I didn't accept his, I know that went in there and I can remember that very clearly. It's a very clear memory. But he and I also, from what I've discovered, we got along better than most of my other cousins and such because I never took any of his crap.
Right, but you were also raised differently. So
I was
you were
very
raised,
much. And I do know that my mom was
that's how the cycle is because a people pleaser, the majority of people pleasers have come from conflict and or self-esteem beatdown, so to speak.
Oh, good Lord! She put I was taken on and put on the highest possible self-esteem.
Well, that was going to be my point. And so what will happen is they'll take their lives when they're out of that situation and they'll do one or the other. Either they'll repeat the process because all that hurt comes up and the anger comes out and they want somebody else to feel it. They don't this isn't a conscious thing. That's what people don't understand. It's not a conscious thing. And they want the other people to feel it. Or they will do everything in their power to never feel the energy of that again, and they become the oversensitive, over empathetic, and they never want another human being to feel what they felt. So they will do everything to keep the tides. So your mother turned that around. And when my children will never feel the low self-esteem, they will never feel the criticism, they will never feel the conflict, they will never feel those things. And so now I'm going to go the opposite end of the spectrum, which we've talked about, and too has its own. Not to beat yourself up, Wendy, but that has its own set of issues that comes along with it. Because there's issues with everything.
Which you learn.
Right.
So
that tends to be the people-pleasing thing. And that's why as soon as you said she's the ultimate people-pleaser, well, okay, then this is probably how she grew up. Because it's very, very, very common. And finding that middle ground could be extreme. It's kind of like the teeter-totter. If you're all the way down here and you're all the way up here, once you decide I'm going to push,
then,
did you go too far? Do you go up too high and you bounce and hurt yourself? Or when you got to find that middle where you're both sides of you are balanced.
And talking about balance, Lori Parrish says most of us don't learn how to have or hold healthy conflict.
No.
And that's a big part, like what you were just talking about right now. That's a big part of what's going on globally and in our country right now, too.
Absolutely. Because we live in a lover war society. And I've dealt with this within family dynamics that I've helped with families, too, that there's lover war. Either everybody is making happy and making peace and half of them faking it. Right. I mean, reality.
Sure. Yeah.
Or the roof is blowing off. And sadly, that is the standard dynamic household now. That is the average household right now. And it's becoming a learned thing. And yes, it is reflecting out. I see siblings on social media absolutely on opposite ends of the spectrum of what they believe is right or wrong, and absolutely annihilating each other. And I'm like, this isn't, you're publicly annihilating each other, and the horrible things that get said, and just the energy of it. And I've asked a couple, because some of them I know well enough, like, why do you do that? And I'm like, well, it doesn't matter. We're not really mad. Okay, I'm glad that the relationship isn't harmed, or they don't think it is. So we could get into that conversation, but we're not going to right now. But think of the energy that you're putting out to the rest of the world, because people read that. Like, that's our dynamic now.
Yeah.
My mom made a statement, and it's actually very, very true. One of the biggest detriments I believe that has happened to society is social media. Because of things like that. Like, that's become the norm. The conflict has become humor, funny, or bully on the playground. Let me get more people behind me and prove that you're wrong, or whatever it is. And it's really I just got the 2 fingers from Pete, so that means I need to shush soon. So anyway, in the end, who am I? And if you choose to, I recommend that you try asking yourself, if I met my maker at the end of the day, if this was when you put your head down the pillow at night, if I met my maker today and had to take accountability for who I am and who I have been, would I be proud? And if the answer is yes, kudos, you had a good day. And if the answer is no, that doesn't mean that you suffer and torment. It means you say, you know what? Well, what I say is, okay, no, I wasn't. I'm not somebody I'm proud of. And if you honor me with another day, I will do better.
Yeah.
It's really as simple as that.
It is. And it is simple. That's you know what?
That's
I love that you said
so
that.
Simple.
Because I actually came across a goofy little thing on TikTok, of all places. That's one of my new little social media addictions. I don't do anything on it. I just scroll through and watch. But someone said, what was the biggest lie you were ever told? And they came back with, it's not that simple. And then they said, what answering the question? No, that's the lie. It's not that simple. The truth is, it is that simple. You just do a thing. And there you go.
Right.
Yeah. So that's awesome. Awesome. Everybody, we will be back again next Sunday at 9 a.m. 9 a.m. Central here on 21.6 The Net with Lisa's Changing Perceptions. Have
Have
a
a good
wonderful,
weekend.
wonderful weekend.